I don't know what it is, but Billerica, as I've always said it, is a great sandbox to play in. I love this community. There is so much potential here, and I just can't help myself and make Billerica more of a destination than it already is. I really do think that Billerica has a bright future.
Well, that was the words of town manager John Curran, explaining how he liked to play in the Billerica Sandbox because it has so much potential. But the question is, who is it going to benefit? What does Billerica have the potential to be? Will it remain a town with the quality of life that many of us cherish?
The financial plan that we're using to fund this, and you saw some of this that Select Board Member Rosa put up. What I'd like to do is go through and tell you how it's really going to work, not the way he presented it. So what we have here is a project that's going to cost $20 million. You as town meeting members given the task of voting for the funding. The roadway commissioners, which is the select board, voted on the plan itself to approve the plan. So obviously you want to see the plan because you're voting on the money. So we will talk about the money first, then we'll talk about the plan itself. So the money being the most important piece for your duty tonight is this $20 million project cost. And what we're trying to do is, the goal is to, as much as possible, fund this project with the funds that do not add to the tax levy. Try to make this a cost, have as little impact on the tax bill as possible. And because we have other big projects going on that need to get done, like the DPW, which is on next week, and other projects. So, but this is an important project, but it's a project that we can fund through other resources because it's a roadway project, unlike a brick and mortar project. That's why we're doing it this way. So if you look in this table, everything in green is something that's controlled by the town or town meeting. These are sources of funding that you would appropriate. They're sources of funding that have already been raised by taxation, so they're not going to impact the tax rate anymore because of this project. Whether this project is done or not, these sources of funding are already there. So the biggest source of funding locally is $6 million from free cash, appropriated over 3 consecutive years. We generally certify $5 to $6 million in free cash, and most of you long-term town meeting members know that we typically use that free cash for capital projects and like road work, and we have used it for road work in the past. So this is, there will be 3 appropriations from free cash in FY 23, 24, and 25. Then we also, as you know, have built up the capital fund since about 5 years ago. We started building that up. And now we spend about $2 million on road work each year. So in FY 25, $1 million of that would go towards the road work in the town center project. In FY 26, $500,000 of that would go towards the town center project. We also have Chapter 90 money, which we get by formula every year. We get about $1.3 million. So we wouldn't spend the whole thing. We'd spend $500,000 in one year, $500,000 in the other year. So those would all be coming from different sources. And then finally, the ARPA money that the board voted to dedicate towards this project would be $3.1 million. And any overlay surplus that becomes available would be put towards this project, not overlay funds. Overlay funds are used for settling tax purposes, as was previously mentioned, but surplus is not. So the entire amount of these funds that have no impact on the tax rate is $15 million, which leaves you with a balance of $5 million that needs to be funded. We are currently seeking a MassWorks grant. We applied for $5 million for a MassWorks grant. For the purposes of this sheet, I carried $3 million. Even if we don't get it in the first round, we can apply in the second round, which is in January. This is a 2-year project that won't even start till after January. So we would apply for that. We'll hopefully get some MassWorks funding, And we've also gotten an earmark through Congresswoman Trahan's office for $1.5 million for federal funds. And so if we get both of those things, that would basically knock this project down to close to zero and have zero tax impact on the taxpayer. However, in the interest of transparency and worst-case scenario, if we did have to, if those things all fell through, as Select Board Member Rosa mentioned, we would have to bond $5 million, which is the number I've been presenting now for many months. So $5 million would be bonded, and the impact to the taxpayer for $5 million is about $14. So if you think that that's a worthy expense for this project, that's a decision that you need to make tonight. But it could be less than that or even zero at the end of the day if we receive the grant funds that we're seeking. And then finally, there's a statutory logistical process that we have to go through in order to make this happen, which is, as you know, if you vote the free cash tonight, which is the next article, and you vote and the ARPA's already been set aside, we have to establish bond authorization for $15 million because you can't fund a project that doesn't have a full source of funding. So even because we're looking to spread this out over 3 years, we can't do it all at once. We have to use the bond authorization as a bridge to allow us to get the project moving. This is a process we've done before with the roof on this building, which was in the library and the House School, which was about $2 million. We bonded that, but we never actually issued the bond because we paid it down with free cash. That's similar to what we would be doing in this process here. So that's the plan to fund it. It's a very solid plan, and it is controlled primarily by the town and town meeting over the next 3 years if the town wants to move forward with the project. So a big question that's been coming up is, well, what about all these other projects that are going to suffer because of this project? Well, this is my walk and chew gum at the same time slide. So we can do more than one thing at a time as a town. And so if you look at this slide, you can see in the last several years, 2019 to 2023, we've spent $16.6 million on water work. We've spent $53 million on road work. We've spent $1.5 million on stormwater. We've spent $70 million on, not actually, we haven't spent it, the town has spent the state has spent $70 million on road projects that are happening in Billerica. And so we were able to do all of these things. And then the other thing to keep in mind is, even though we're taking money out of these accounts, over the next 2 years, if this project is done, we will still be spending $4.6 million on road work over those 2 years out of those funds because we didn't deplete those funds entirely. We took small pieces out of each one to put this thing together.
Board of Selectmen.
Recommends 3-2.
Good evening, thank you. So you're going to have 6 reasons not to vote for the town center, which is Article 14. 1, it will not bring economic development. 2, will not improve parking. 3, the unclear funding plan. 4, time to get through the center. 5, will create safety issues. And 6, unnecessary tax impacts on you. They claim it will bring economic development. One side of the center is owned by the town, the Masonic Hall, the library, the senior center, and everything else is private housing. On the other side of the center, you have O'Connor's Plaza, the Center Cafe, Manja Manja, and Liberty Bell. Where would economic development be? The center is fully developed. At a Finance Committee meeting of 9/26/23, the town manager talked about the economic development of Article 14. He compared it to the Boston Road South project and said, that's the reason the Billerica Mall is making such an investment. If 200 condos is his idea of economic development, we have a real problem. The mall only does what's in the best interest for the mall. You'll be told there's a plan to bond this project, and then it will not raise taxes by using other fiscal money. This is in the back page of the book. When you break down what they're actually doing, the federal funding earmarks of $1.5 million, it's not guaranteed. MassWorks grant of $3 million, not guaranteed. Free cash from years 20, 23, 24, and 25 for a total of $6 million. We have never had free cash surplus. Most everyone in here has been in town meeting. We've never had leftover free cash. So that $6 million will need to come someplace else. Taxes. The capital appropriation for 2024 and 2025 are $1.5 million, again, from taxes. The Chapter 90 money for 2024 and 2025 of $1 million. This takes away from road work that could be done all over the town, in neighborhoods, on other roads. To use $1 million to do about 100 yards of paving when we could do so much more in neighborhoods that really need it. The ARPA money of over $3 million. This money was originally slated for a sewer main, and then the Board of Selectmen, with a 3-2 vote, decided to move it into this account. This money by itself could fully fund the rebuilding of the North Billerica Fire Station. And then bonding is an unknown amount, but that'll be paid for by the taxpayers. The overlay account of $4 million, which is taxpayer money set aside to settle tax charges. How are residents impacted? You received the highest residential tax increase in the history of Billerica. Taxes will go up again substantially next year. You've received water and sewer rate increases. You are facing the highest inflation in 40 years, record high cost of living, and the price of gas is up 60%, and the largest annual increase in food since the 1980s. In closing, there's no real economic development. Of all the projects that need to be done in town, this is not one of them. A funding plan that is not solidified. It will take longer to get through the center, create safety hazards with parallel parking, no need to spend $20 million to go backwards. 2 years of construction will hurt all the businesses in the center. 10,555 voters of Billerica voted on the center redesign. 9,086 against, 1,469 in favor. That's at 86% saying no to almost the same plan. You, the town meeting members, have a chance to vote down funding with no ill effects and make a difference with struggling families. Please vote no on Article 14 and 15.
Selectman Burrows.
I rise in opposition to this project. Talk about economic development. Route 3 South, Boston Road South, we did that project. The telephone lights are already out there rusting. Empty Amazon there. We got no Starbucks. We got no 110 Grill. We allocated $3.1 million and some change ARPA money towards stormwater treatment to get us ahead of schedule to help people raise their taxes. And there's people in town that have been here 30, 40 years that still aren't hooked up to town water and town sewer. But yet we're taking that $3 million to pave a center. Asked for a couple different changes on this. Same 7 times. If you really wanted to, you could put a light up on the top of River Street, take a left in front of the Bennett Library. Came back to the Senate, same way.
Senator, you got to wrap it up.
And about 12 years ago, remember, we don't just represent ourselves, we represent the residents. And I think it got shot down 10,000 to about 100 or so. So remember who you represent. Thanks.
I don't know what it is, but Billerica, as I've always said it, is a great sandbox to play in. I love this community. There is so much potential here, and I just can't help myself and make Billerica more of a destination than it already is. I really do think that Billerica has a bright future.
The question is, who is it going to benefit? What does Billerica have the potential to be? Will it remain a town with the quality of life that many of us cherish?